I am Supreme Security Director Scancelin of the Shaneth Imperium, and I detest inefficiency. This is why I find myself increasingly disturbed by the reports flooding my desk as I conduct my inspection of Central Frennis Station Echo 9-1. Once the greatest trading hub in the Carina Arm, now requisitioned as our forward command center against the human expansion. Director, the new security protocols have been implemented in sectors 17 through 42. My assistant, Subdirector Srevli, announces as we pass a patrol of Mark 7 battle droids. Their optical sensors flash in recognition of my authority before they resume their perfect formation. Perfect, precise, predictable, as all things should be. Casualties from the Procyon engagement? I inquire, though I already know the answer will displease me. Srevli's secondary breathing bladders inflate slightly, a telling sign of discomfort. 3 cruisers lost, 7 damaged beyond immediate repair, approximately 12,000 battle droids destroyed. And the humans? 1 vessel confirmed destroyed, 2 damaged. I halt my stride so abruptly that Srevli nearly collides with me. The massive promenade of Echo 9-1 stretches before us, once bustling with merchants from 1,000 worlds, now transformed into a staging area for our war machine. Droid carriers and weapon systems fill the spaces where exotic goods were once traded. Explain to me, I say with dangerous calm, how a species that has barely achieved reliable interstellar travel less than 2 centuries ago continues to defy the military might of an empire that spans 17% of this galaxy. Srevli's skin shifts to a deeper shade of blue. Director, I've compiled the latest intelligence. It appears the humans have deployed their specialized combat units again. You mean the ones with the primitive weapons? Yes, Director. The units they call Texas Knights. A group of merchant-caste Shanaths scurry past us, their conversation abruptly halting as they recognize my rank insignia. I barely notice them. My attention is fixed on the report Srevli has handed me. The footage is fragmented, communications disruption being a hallmark of human engagements, but clear enough to turn my blood cold. Shaneth battle droids, the pinnacle of our autonomous weapons technology, falling before humans in peculiar armored suits. Humans wielding swords? This cannot be accurate, I mutter, though I know our recording systems are incapable of falsification. They are using primitive cutting implements against quantum-shielded battle platforms? The weapons appear to be energized, Director. Our analysis suggests they incorporate quantum distortion fields that interact with our shield harmonics in unpredictable ways. I hand the report back with a sharp gesture. Unpredictable is unacceptable. Unpredictable should not be possible. We resume our inspection route, passing through the former diplomatic sector, now converted to a strategic command center. Through transparent partitions, I observe our finest military minds plotting combat scenarios, charting hyperspace vectors, calculating engagement probabilities, all of them searching for the pattern that will allow us to finally contain the human threat. Have we captured any of these knights, I ask? 1, Director. 3 standard cycles ago. The human is being held in high-security containment on level 94. I alter our course immediately. The security personnel at the detention levels snap to alertness as I approach, their postures registering appropriate levels of respect and fear. I wish to interrogate the human captive, I announce. The security officer blinks all 4 eyes in sequence, a sign of concern. Director, the prisoner has been difficult. Traditional interrogation methods have proven ineffective. We've had to resort to chemical measures, and even those have yielded limited results. Meaning our procedures have failed? Not failed, Director. The human simply responds unpredictably. They resist in ways we haven't encountered before. That word again, unpredictable. A concept that should not exist in modern warfare. Open the cell, I order. The containment field shimmers as it reconfigures to allow my entry while maintaining security parameters. Inside, sitting with a posture that suggests neither fear nor concern, is a human, female according to our biological reference data. Her outer armor has been removed, leaving her in what appears to be a form-fitting black undergarment. What strikes me immediately is her apparent calm. Prisoners typically exhibit stress responses when confronted by a Shanat of my rank. This human simply looks curious. "Well now," she says in strangely accented galactic standard, "y'all must be the big boss. Fancy coat you got there." I do not respond to her primitive attempt at establishing rapport. Instead, I activate the room's scanning suite, gathering data on her biological status and potential threats. The scan results are concerning. "You show no signs of fear," I state, "yet you must understand your situation." The human smiles, an expression I know is meant to indicate amusement rather than aggression. "Ain't about understanding, Director. It's about accepting." "Explain." "Look at you," she says, gesturing with a casual wave. "All these fancy sensors and machines. You're so busy looking for complex answers that you miss the simple ones." I feel my patience fracturing. "You are a primitive species wielding archaic weapons. You should be eradicated by our battle platforms within minutes of engagement. Instead, you continue to defy probability. Explain how, or your containment conditions will become significantly less comfortable." The human leans forward, and for a moment I detect something dangerous in her expression. Not fear, something worse. Confidence. "You want to know why we're beating you?" she asks. "It's because y'all forgot something important about warfare, something basic." "And what might that be?" "That war ain't just about technology, it's about will, about spirit." She taps her chest. "About what's in here. You send machines to fight your battles because you think warfare is just math, just probabilities and patterns." "War is mathematics," I respond, somewhat affronted by her primitive concept. "Resources, trajectories, force calculations." "War is chaos," she interrupts. "War is chaos," she interrupts. "Always has been. You try to make it orderly, but that ain't its nature. That's why we're winning, because we embrace the chaos. We ride it like a wild horse." I prepare to leave, having heard enough of this philosophical nonsense. But her next words freeze me in place. "You know why we use swords, Director? Real reason?" Against my better judgment, I turn back. "Enlighten me." "Because they're personal. Because when you fight with a blade, you're not just pressing buttons from orbit. You're there, in the moment, feeling the weight of your decisions. Your droids fight because they're programmed to. We fight because we choose to." A guard appears at the doorway. "An urgent report from our outer defense perimeter." I dismiss him for the moment, oddly compelled by this human's barbaric philosophy. "And the helmets?" I ask, referencing the distinctive headgear their knights wear. "Those serve what primitive psychological purpose?" The human's smile widens. "That's just a Stetson, Director. Part of the uniform. Tradition, you might say." "Tradition has no place in modern warfare." "And that's why you're losing?" The guard returns, insistence evident in his posture. This time I accept the report. What I see causes my skin to blanch to a pale gray. 3 human vessels have emerged from hyperspace at the edge of our defense grid. Small vessels, by our standards, barely worthy of notice, except for the fact that our outer sensors are going offline in sequence. "Right on time," the human prisoner remarks, glancing at the blank wall as if she can somehow sense what's happening. "That'll be the cavalry." "Impossible," I hiss. "You have no way of knowing." "Don't need to know, just need to have faith in my squadron. We made a pact. Nobody gets left behind enemy lines. Texas Knights keep their promises." My security clearance allows me to receive updates on the defense grid status in real time. The pattern of system failures is unlike anything in our combat databases. No electronic warfare we've encountered could penetrate our defenses with such unpredictability, I whisper. "Bingo," the human says with a wink. "Now, I suggest you might want to clear this level. Things are about to get a little rowdy." I back away from the containment field, issuing emergency commands to the guards. "Full alert! All battle droids to defensive positions. Activate all internal security measures." "Won't help," the human comments casually. "You're thinking in straight lines again. My friends don't much care for straight lines." The station's artificial gravity fluctuates momentarily. a subtle shift that would be imperceptible to most species, but I feel it, and so does the human. Her smile turns predatory. "That's them now," she says. "Reckon they're about to introduce themselves properly." I rush from the detention level, Strevely struggling to keep pace as I issue commands to every security system on the station. Battle droids move with perfect precision to their assigned positions. Defense grids power up in mathematically optimal patterns. Every countermeasure deployed according to the most advanced tactical algorithms in the known galaxy. We reach the command center as the first visual confirmation of intruders arrives. Fragmented security feeds showing armored figures moving through the station. Their armor resembles the prisoners, but now I can see the full ensemble. The distinctive helmet. The Stetson sits atop enclosed combat armor, emblazoned with a single star. And the swords. The swords leave trails of blue energy that our sensors cannot properly analyze. Where they pass, our systems fail, not from damage, but from what appears to be reality itself becoming uncertain. "What is this?" I demand of our chief tactical officer. "What weapon creates these effects?" "Unknown, Director," the officer responds, his voice tight with stress. "The energy signatures don't match any known technology. They appear to be generating quantum fields that shouldn't be stable at that scale." On the monitors, I watch as our battle droids engage the intruders. The droids move with perfect precision, their targeting systems identifying optimal attack vectors, their networked intelligence adjusting tactics in microsecond intervals. They are being slaughtered. The humans move with a fluidity that defies prediction. Their swords, those primitive, barbaric weapons, somehow intercept energy beams, disrupting quantum shields that should be impenetrable to physical objects. Worse, they appear to be communicating through means our systems cannot detect, coordinating their movements with impossible precision. "How many intruders?" I demand. "7, Director, just 7 humans. 7, against thousands of battle droids and the most advanced security systems in the Carina Arm." "Sector 42 has been breached," an analyst reports. "They appear to be heading directly for the detention level." Of course they are. They're coming for their comrade. "Seal all intervening bulkheads, flood those sections with neurotoxins, deploy heavy weapons platforms." I pause, then make a decision that reflects our growing desperation. "And deploy the elite guard." Silence falls over the command center at this last order. The elite guard, actual Shanath warriors, have not been deployed in actual combat for 7 generations. We have relied on our battle droids for so long that the art of personal combat has become nearly ceremonial among our kind. But these humans have forced our hand. "Director," the Chief of Staff says carefully, "the elite guard are untested in actual combat conditions." "Then this will be their baptism," I reply coldly. "If these humans insist on personal combat, we shall meet them on their terms." The commands are executed. On the monitors, I watch as bulkheads slam shut, isolating the intruders. Satisfaction flickers briefly, until I see one of the humans approach a sealed door. They place their hand on the surface, and the quantum-locked security barrier simply fails. Not hacked, not damaged, it's as if the underlying laws of physics that govern its operation are briefly suspended. "Impossible," I whisper. The neurotoxin deployment registers as successful, filling the corridors with concentrations lethal to every known sentient species. The humans advance through the deadly fog as if it's nothing more than mild weather. Their armor should not be capable of filtering toxins at that molecular weight, yet they proceed unaffected. "Director," Svadli says urgently, "tactical analysis suggests we should evacuate priority personnel. We cannot predict." "Stop using that word," I snarl. "There must be a pattern. There must be logic to their movements. Nothing can truly be unpredictable. The universe does not operate that way." But as I watch the knights carve their way through our defenses, I begin to understand what the prisoner meant. These humans aren't fighting according to any recognizable doctrine. Each movement seems simultaneously improvised and practiced. as if they're participating in some chaotic dance where the steps are known only to them. The heavy weapons platforms engage, concentrated energy beams that can slice through capital ship armor, fire in converging patterns, a mathematical certainty that nothing could survive such a crossfire. The knights move between the beams as if they can see the mathematics themselves, finding impossible gaps in the firing solution. One of them actually deflects a beam with their sword, redirecting it into another weapons platform. Then, finally, they encounter our elite guard, 12 Sheneth warriors, the finest our species has produced in generations, each armed with energy staves that mimic the human sword technology. They have studied the combat footage, analyzed the movements, prepared countermeasures. The first engagement is brutal and swift. Our warriors, for all their training, have never experienced actual combat against a determined enemy. The humans move with a fluid grace that makes our carefully choreographed combat forms seem rigid and predictable by comparison. The first warrior falls within seconds, his staff technique perfect according to our ancient manuals, yet somehow wholly inadequate against the human's improvisational style. The second and third attack in tandem, executing a pincer movement that should be indefensible. The human knight spins between them, their sword leaving that distinctive blue trail as it severs the staff of one warrior and disables the armor of the other. Not kills, disables. This realization hits me with unexpected force. The humans are not slaughtering our warriors as they did our droids. They are disabling, disarming, incapacitating, but not killing. "Director," the chief tactical officer calls out, "they've reached attention level 94. On the monitor, I watch as 3 knights approach the cell containing their comrade. The security systems activate, creating a quantum barrier that should be impenetrable. One of the knights steps forward, raises their sword, and makes a pattern in the air, a simple geometric figure that makes no tactical sense. The barrier collapses. "Yee-haw!" I hear the prisoner exclaim through the security feed as she's reunited with her team. One of the knights hands her a spare suit of armor and, most disturbingly, a sword of her own. "Took y'all long enough. Had to wait for the proper timing," one of the rescuers replies, their voice distorted by their helmet systems. "Wouldn't be sporting otherwise." Sporting? As if this is some kind of primitive competition rather than warfare. "Director, they're heading for the central transportation hub," an analyst reports. "If they reach it, they could access any part of the station." I make a decision. Initiate containment protocol Omega-7. Seal and decompress all sectors between their current position and the transportation hub. It's a drastic measure, one that will kill hundreds of our own personnel still in those sectors, but against an enemy that defies conventional tactics, conventional morality must sometimes be suspended. The order is executed. On the environmental monitors, I watch as the atmosphere vents from multiple sectors, creating a vacuum zone that no being could traverse without specialized equipment. The knights pause at the edge of the decompressed zone. For a moment, I feel a surge of satisfaction, finally a limitation they cannot overcome. Then, to my horror, they adjust something on their boots, devices that flare with blue energy, and step out into the vacuum as if it's solid ground. The energy trails from their boots interact with the vacuum itself, creating what appears to be localized packets of atmosphere around each step. "What am I seeing?" I demand. "Explain this." "Director," the science officer responds, his voice shaking. "They appear to be using some form of quantum field manipulation to create temporary pockets of..." It's as if they're bringing their own environment with them, but the energy requirements for such technology would be beyond their capabilities, I finish. Yet they are doing it. "Yes, Director, they are." I watch, transfixed, as the knights traverse the vacuum, their movements even more fluid without atmosphere to create resistance. Their rescued comrade follows, clearly familiar with the technique. "Where are they going?" I ask, though I already suspect the answer. Analysis of their trajectory suggests our central command center, Director. Of course, they aren't just here for a rescue, they intend to cripple our operations. Evacuate all essential personnel from the command center. Transfer control functions to the secondary facility. Prepare my personal shuttle. Skrevely stares at me with all 4 eyes wide. Director, are we retreating? We are reassessing, I reply, not meeting his gaze, and implementing our final option. I turn to the communications officer. Send the signal to deploy our reserve forces, all of them. The officer hesitates, four-fingered hands hovering over the controls. Director, that would mean... I know what it means, I interrupt sharply. Every Sheneth citizen with basic combat training, every available warrior not currently assigned to critical defense, every medical officer, engineer, and scientist with the physical capability to hold a weapon, deploy them all. It is an admission of desperation I never thought I would make. For generations, we have prided ourselves on our technological superiority, on our ability to wage war without risking our own precious lives. Our battle droids have been our proxies, our shields, our way of maintaining our civilization's comfort even as we expanded our control across the stars. Now, we are committing our own flesh and blood to combat against these barbaric humans and their impossible swords. On the monitor, I watch the Knights approach the final barrier before the command center, our most formidable security measure. A phase-locked quantum barrier that requires specific frequency keys that change every nanosecond. The lead knight stops, seems to consider the barrier for a moment, then turns to the others. They raise their swords in unison, and the quantum energies from their blades coalesce into a pattern that our sensors cannot interpret. The barrier flickers, destabilizes, and then simply disappears. "Director," Strevely says urgently, "our shuttle is ready." I nod but remain watching the monitors for another moment. The Knights have entered the now evacuated command center. Instead of destroying it, as I expected, they gather around the central tactical display. The rescued prisoner points to something, coordinates, perhaps. One of the others produces a device that interfaces with our systems in ways that should be impossible. What are they doing? I wonder aloud. "Director, we must go now," Strevely insists. I finally turn away from the monitors, allowing myself to be escorted to the emergency shuttle bay. As we move through the corridors, I notice the station's systems behaving erratically. Lights flickering in patterns, gravity shifting subtly, even the automated doors opening with what seems like hesitation. They've infected our central systems, I realize. Not with a virus or hack, but with something else, something unpredictable. We reach the shuttle and I pause before boarding. To my shock, the female knight stands at the end of the corridor, her sword sheathed, her stance relaxed. She has removed her helmet, revealing features that would be considered attractive by human standards. "Leaving so soon, Director," she calls out, "and here I thought we were just getting to know each other." My guards raise their weapons, but I gesture for them to hold. "What do you want?" I demand. She approaches with a casual stride that belies the deadliness I've witnessed in their kind. "Just thought you might want to know something before you run back to your high command with tales of Texas witchcraft." And what might that be? Her smile is cold, calculating. Nothing like the brash confidence she displayed in her cell. My capture wasn't an accident. It was strategy. Impossible. No one would willingly submit to, it's called psychological warfare, Director. Ancient human concept. See, we knew you'd bring in your top brass to interrogate a knight, knew you'd assemble your best tactical minds to figure us out. She gestures to the station around us. Knew you'd concentrate your command structure in one convenient location. Cold dread settles in my gut. You allowed yourself to be captured. Bingo. She taps her temple. And while your fancy machines were trying to read my thoughts, my quantum spurs were reading your systems. Every scan you ran gave us more access, more data. By the time my friends showed up, we already knew every weakness in this station. "Are you telling me this?" I ask, genuinely confused by this breach of tactical advantage. "Because I want you to understand." Her expression turns serious. "This war you started, it's not going the way you planned. Not because our technology is better, but because you've forgotten what real warfare is about. It's about people, flesh and blood, courage and fear, things your battle droids can't understand." She reaches up to adjust her Stetson, that ridiculous headgear that somehow seems more menacing than comical now. Y'all have been fighting with proxies for so long you've forgotten how to fight yourselves. Now you're sending your people into battle, but they don't know what's waiting for them. Is that a threat? I ask, my voice stiffer than I intend. No, Director. It's an opportunity. She removes something from her belt, a small device that she slides across the floor toward me. Frequency codes, shield harmonics, tactical overrides, everything you need to disable a Texas Knight's armor and weapons. I stare at the device, unable to comprehend this gesture. Why would you give us this? Because even with it, you still won't win unless you understand what you're really fighting against. She taps her chest. This, the human spirit, the thing your machines can't calculate and your warriors have forgotten. She backs away, her quantum spurs leaving those distinctive blue trails on the deck plating. We'll be waiting for your people, Director, not your machines, your people. And when they come, we'll show them what real combat is about, sword to sword, will against will. You would prefer that? I ask, genuinely perplexed, even knowing we outnumber you billions to one? Her laugh echoes down the corridor. Numbers don't win wars, Director, never have. It's always been about heart, about conviction, about looking your enemy in the eye and deciding what you're willing to sacrifice. She turns to leave, then pauses. Oh, and Director, that device is genuine, no tricks. Consider it a gift from Texas. We want a fair fight. With that, she is gone, leaving me holding a device that could potentially turn the tide of this war, yet somehow feeling more uncertain than ever. Send a message to High Command, I tell Srevli as we board the shuttle. Tell them we need to reconsider our approach to this conflict. These humans, these knights, they don't fight as we do. They don't think as we do. I pause, looking down at the device in my hand. And tell them that our reserve forces will need new training, not just in technology, but in the ancient arts our ancestors practiced, the personal combat forms we have relegated to ceremonial displays. Director? Srevli sounds confused. If we're going to fight humans with swords, I explain, we need to remember what it means to be warriors, not just commanders of machines. As our shuttle departs from Echo 9-1, I watch the station receding through the viewport. It appears outwardly unchanged, yet I know that something fundamental has shifted within its systems. The humans didn't destroy it. They altered it in ways our sensors can barely detect. Director, the pilot calls back. I'm receiving a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies, originating from the station. Let me hear it, I command. A human voice fills the shuttle cabin, carrying that distinctive accent that I now recognize as belonging to their Texas Knights. Attention, Shannon forces, this here station is now under the protection of the Texas Knights. You all might notice your systems acting a bit peculiar. That's because we've introduced them to a little concept called quantum uncertainty. Your battle droids might start getting ideas of their own. Your computers might develop a taste for what we call country music. And your command codes, well, let's just say they're learning to operate on principles your engineers never programmed. There's a pause. Then the voice continues, more serious now. We could have destroyed this station and everyone on it. That's not our way. Instead, we're leaving you a message. There are some things in this universe that can't be calculated, can't be predicted, can't be controlled. The human spirit is one of them. Y'all would do well to remember that before you come at us again. The transmission ends with a musical sequence that makes no tactical sense whatsoever, yet somehow feels like a declaration of victory more profound than any I've encountered in my long military career. I think back to the knight's words, about psychological warfare, about the human spirit, about the personal nature of combat with a blade rather than a remote weapon. Barbaric, I mutter, yet I cannot deny the effectiveness of their approach. Perhaps there is something to be learned from this encounter, something that our battle computers have missed. As our shuttle jumps to hyperspace, I find myself considering a disturbing possibility. What if predictability itself is a weakness? What if our reliance on patterns and mathematics has blinded us to a fundamental truth about the universe? What if the humans, with their primitive weapons and inexplicable tactics, have discovered something we forgot long ago? I take out my personal journal, creating a new entry. I title it, Strategic Analysis, the Unpredictable Variable in Combat Doctrine. And for the first time in my career, I begin to write without first calculating the optimal structure for my report. Instead, I simply let the thoughts flow, embracing just slightly the chaos that the humans seem to navigate so effortlessly. Perhaps there is something to be learned from barbarians who resurrect swords in an age of quantum weapons. Perhaps in their primitive approach, they have stumbled upon a profound truth that our civilization, for all its advancement, has forgotten. Perhaps unpredictability is not a flaw in the universe's design, but a feature we have failed to utilize. And perhaps, just perhaps, a sword in the hand of a determined warrior is still the most dangerous weapon of all, especially when that warrior wears a Stetson and fights with a spirit no machine can match. Thank you for listening to this story. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to leave this video a like and subscribe if you want to see more stuff like this. Video shares, memberships, and super thanks help the channel grow as well, so feel free to partner with this channel in that way as we grow. With that all said, thank you again for listening to the story, and thank you for your time. On the left side of your screen are some videos I think you might be interested in. I hope to see you in the next one.